Director of Social Networking for the HASTAC MacArthur Foundation Badges for Lifelong Learning Competition. And I'm just doing a sound check right now, and to let everybody know we're going to start promptly in about 3 minutes. So if you just hang tight for a couple seconds, and we'll be starting in about 3 minutes. The HASTAC MacArthur Foundation Badges for Lifelong Learning Competition, and we're going to start right on time. Today, joining me as host on this webinar, Theo Goldberg, Executive Director of the Digital Media and Learning Research Hub, co-founder of HASTAC, which is administering the HASTAC MacArthur Foundation Digital Media and Learning Competition. Then we also have Aaron Knight, who's Assessment and Badge Project Lead for the Mozilla Foundation and P2PU, and Carla Casilli, Open Badges Operations Manager for the Mozilla Foundation. In this webinar, which is our second in our series, we had one last week. David, Aaron, and Carla are going to cover general questions about the Badges for Lifelong Learning Competition application process. And we want to make sure everyone receives fair treatment in this competition, so we won't be able to provide feedback address. And just before I go ahead and introduce everybody, there's a few things I wanted to let you know about interacting with this webinar. We're using GoToMeeting platform, and it does not have the most robust real-time social features, so if you wanted to participate in the back channel, we recommend that you use the Twitter hashtag DML badges. And for those of you who are participating by web and want to submit questions during the webinar, go ahead and enter those into the chat box, or for some of you, you'll have an interface that has a questions box. And then if after the webinar you have additional questions and you want to send something to us, go ahead and email them to dml@hri.uci.edu. And any questions that we don't cover in this webinar, we will address them on our Badges, Questions, and Themes forum thread on HASTAC, and also post those on the dmlcompetition.net blog. So we'll try to make sure that we cover everything, and if you have questions afterwards, we'll try to get to those as well. If you wanted to share this with somebody after or watch it afterwards as an archive, we'll be putting it up on dmlcompetition.net. And we also have our schedule there for upcoming webinars. We're going to repeat our Badges 101 webinar on October 17th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and on October 20th, this one again, to discuss the DML competition process and application. And I just want to make sure for anybody who has not heard, we are extending the deadline for Stage 1. It will now be November 14th. And the cutoff time is 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for that. So you can go to dmlcompetition.net to get more information about the changes in the timeline. But let's go ahead and start. I'm going to introduce Theo Goldberg. He is going to talk about the general sort of overview of the competition process. So David, welcome.
Thank you, Cheryl. Good day to everybody. It's a pleasure to be here and to host you all on this webinar. Let me begin just by saying a few words about what it is generally we're looking to do here, and then I'll walk us briefly through the competition phases. So what we're looking to do is to, as a general phenomenon, is to surface and identify effective learning and pathways to effective learning, and we think that badges may indeed be a good way in many respects and for many kinds of learning to reward learning and pathways to learning. So that's the overall sort of vision over here, is to identify the kind of learning content for which badges would be an effective way to review, recognize, and reward, and to then encourage the development of creative and effective badge designs, what we're calling badging ecosystems, a system, sets of badges and systems of badging that does that kind of work. And so the competition is designed in order to address those aspects that bring together learning content on the one side, the kind of learning content for which we think, or which folks might think badging systems, system or ecology of badging would be an effective way to review, recognize, and reward on the one side. So the learning content on the one side, together with creative badge design in all its complexity on the other side, and to bring them into partnership with each other in a way that then would produce this effective overall system or ecology of badging for reviewing, recognizing, rewarding learning and pathways, the stages or phases of learning that takes place. And indeed, when you think of it in those terms, we set up the competition in these stages in order to address each of these aspects. So stage one of the competition, I mean, if you actually go to the website dmlcompetition.net and then you click on the badges competition, and then you look at in the menu navigation, you look at stage one, you will notice that stage one is about learning content, and by that we want folks to submit applications that identify across a very broad range of domains. It's not delimited in any kind of way. Effective learning content for which badging might be an appropriate way of recognizing and rewarding the kind of learning and learning pathways that are taking place. And what we mean by learning pathways in that instance are the kinds of steps that are engaged in any effective learning. I mean, learning for the most part doesn't happen as a one-time eureka kind of moment. Effective learning usually takes place through stages of development, and we think that badging, not unlike in games, it's not to say learning is a game, although it might be an effective way of learning in some instances, that not and maybe gets a reward for reaching that level, which might then be opening up the next level to possible navigation. So with learning, right, one reaches a certain plateau of learning and one is recognized for that, maybe rewarded for that, and then that opens the next stage or phase or level up in which learning takes place. So stage one is learning content. What is the kind of content in which you might be interested, for which badging might be an effective way of tracking the kind of learning taking place? You know, we have, if you go to stage one on the website, you will notice if you scroll down that there are a set of, call it criteria, the kinds of things we're looking for in relation to learning content. The programs or activities that will be supported by badges, the skills, the competencies, the achievements badges will validate, the identity and roles, the opportunities or privileges, the existing assessments, and so on and so forth. You can read down, and that's elaborated a little bit in that. And if you're thinking of submitting a learning content aspect to the competition or proposal, then you do well to pay attention, you know, fairly closely to the kinds of things that we're pointing to in that set of criteria. So stage one is learning content. And what takes place then is a separate judging by expert judges on the most effective learning content for which we think, or the judges think, that badges will be an effective way of reviewing, recognizing, and rewarding. Stage 2 then is almost separate, almost discrete. I mean, obviously we want them related and connected in the end. But stage 1 winners that are chosen by the judges in stage 1 will go forward to stage 3. And I'll get to stage 3 in a minute. Stage 2 is the development of, or the call for submitting badge system way of thinking about badging and badge design relative to available content. Now, the content might be the content winners from stage 1, right? So at the end of stage 1, when the winners are announced, we'll make them available, we'll make their proposals available, and badge designers might look at that and say, I have an interesting or effective badge design that I could develop in relation to some or other of stage 1 winners. There will also be available, as there is already to some degree, what we're calling collaborator content. That is content of institutions we've been working with, whether it's American Libraries Association, so on. All of that is already on the website. And badge designers might look at that content and say, oh, I like that. I have a way of thinking about NASA's robotics program, and I think I can design an effective badging system that would recognize the learning taking place in relation to robotics that NASA is promoting over here, and I'm going to submit a set of badges or a badge design for NASA's robotics program. And then that too, I mean, if you go to the website and click on stage 2, you'll notice, if you see a handwritten word written proposal, under B, badges, you'll notice a series of notions, or effectively what could count as criteria: content, skills, discrete versus dynamics, scarcity and granularity, qualifications, role and identity level, and so on and so forth. And again, anybody thinking about submitting a badge design or system of badges in the design part of the competition would do really well to pay close attention to those qualities. And then again, a different set of judges, experts, will look at those proposals and choose some winners, and they will be announced by the end of January. And then what we aim to do is to put into partnerships and collaborators from stage 1 with winners from stage 2, that is learning content folks from stage 1, with badge design folks from stage 2, and to put them into working relationships, and they will be able to work virtually. We'll introduce them to each other if they don't know each other already. They will be able to work with each other more or less intensively over the month of February, and that's by their own choice, telephone, email, webinars, whatever, Skype. And we will bring those winning teams into a 2-day meeting at the end of February in San Francisco. And the first step, working very closely together over that day to develop a presentation, and then on day 2, each team will make a presentation to a body of live judges, expert judges, who will then choose the winning proposals, and they will be the ultimate competition winners, and the competition winners will be announced at the Digital Media and Learning Conference in in San Francisco in the days following, probably March 2nd. So that's the overall sort of scope of the competition. The award amounts, which will really be people will have to respond to at stage 3, can range from anywhere from $10,000 to $200,000, depending on what you're trying to do. And there will be a year-long award period in which the work of badge design, badge system, badge ecology development will be taking place by each of the winning teams. So let's open it up to questions.
Thanks, David. We're going to try as much as possible to put questions and themes together, but I think we'll also be jumping around a little bit as we get questions coming in from people. And I know this was covered, but I'm going to ask some of the questions that people have asked for clarification. They sent in emails prior to the webinar after receiving some of the announcements. So the first question is, who is a collaborator, who isn't, and what does that mean? What's the difference between a collaborator and a stage 1 applicant?
Right. So collaborators are organizations who are either, at this point, government agencies like NASA or the Department of Education on one side, or corporations like Intel or Microsoft or Motorola, etc. on the other side, or organizations like the National Association of Manufacturers, and so on. So those are folks we, organizers of the competition, have been working with closely over a number of months, and we've worked with them to develop content, which is, let me stress, learning content in relation to some or other aspect of their operation that they are committed to supporting. So I mentioned NASA and robotics. NASA has a robotics program, for example, and they would love to see the development of a system of badging that recognizes the learning that takes place for youth, young people for the most part, in relation to the robotics program. And that content has already been loaded up onto the website. If you go to the website, you can find that content already available there and read through it. And so each of the collaborators, there are about 9 of them, I think, loaded up to date, are folks we've been working with effectively over some number of months now, and who have developed content that has been signed off on both on their side and on our side. We are looking through the competition for effective badging systems that address the kind of learning taking place in relation to that set of content. So that's different than a stage 1 applicant. A stage 1 applicant would be submitting learning content maybe comparable to that of like that of NASA or the Department of Education, but is their own learning content from the classroom, learning content from how to program in a programming language, or effective learning that takes place, you know, in a school curriculum or an after-school program, learning content that might be, you know, just off the top of my head, effective learning about the U.S. Constitution or some other country's Constitution, and so on and so forth. And developing that content and making a case for why badges would be an effective way of recognizing and rewarding the kind of learning taking place in relation to that content, now different from the kind of content that the collaborators have submitted.
A couple of questions just came in about who the intended audience is for this competition. One person has written, I detect a focus on youth. Is this the case, or are you also looking for solutions in adult learning?
Yeah, that's a good question. We are open to learning that takes place across all generations, and pretty much all let me stress, good learning, learning of good things, and effective learning practices in relation to good learning for all generations. It's not restricted to youth. I mean, obviously there's a considerable concern you know, in our society about learning on the part of youth, but media have transformed the way all of us learn and continue to learn across all generations of learning. I would include myself in that. And so we would be completely open to really effective and creative learning content and badging systems with respect to that learning content, you know, for octogenarians as much as teenagers or pre-teenagers.
Great. And we've also got some questions too about what kind of institutions or organizations should apply, and can international institutions and organizations apply?
Yeah, the international question is easiest, so I'll address it first. Applications and organizations from international sites across the world, and indeed want to encourage that. This is an international competition in the broader scope, and we would love to see a robust pool from across the globe. As for the kinds of organizations, we're open to pretty much any and all organizations that could support effective learning practices across a very broad range of domains. Small organizations, small institutions, non-profits, university organizations, schools, schooling districts, after-school programs, non-profits, all of it would for us be effective applications.
Okay. And this question too, I know, has come in a couple different variations. Will you accept applications from individuals without institutional or organizational affiliation? Specifically, if somebody is applying, designing to get a badge from their institution, does that institution that the applicant applies to have to be the badge awarding institution?
Yeah, I mean, there strike me at least two questions embedded in that one. I would say that straightforwardly, one has to have an institutional sponsor to apply. Standalone individuals would not be eligible on their own to apply for the competition. You know, even if it's a non-profit or a small agency, we want to see a kind of institutional support mechanism supporting the application, not least in relation to the licensing or the authorizing of the badge or badges that are being proposed. Now, the second question I detect is, you know, if I'm applying and I have, you know, say I don't know, a teacher at a school, and I get the school to sponsor the application, it's not the case that the school need be then the authorizing institution for the badge that you're proposing. You could, yeah, and indeed, if you're going to end up being partnered with some other institution, should you make it through the first stages of the competition, then it's more likely that the school, you know, supporting your submission would not be the licensing or authorizing institution for the badge that you have in mind. That authorizing institution would most effectively be the one that you're developing the badge for. So you better get authorization from them, because otherwise, of course, it wouldn't work. We want to see that there's some kind of institutional support for your work, and we want to see that there ultimately is an authorizing institution for the badge or badge system that we would be proposing, and in some cases they would be the same institution underwriting you, but in some cases they could be discrete.
Okay, thank you. And this is going to hopefully all tie back together with the individuals and organizations. Going back to the collaborators, are stage one entrants in direct competition with the collaborators?
No, they're not in direct competition with the collaborators. Stage one applicants are submitting and will compete against other stage one applicants. So, you know, we have winners from stage one that would be the number of which would be discounted by the fact that there at this point, say 9 collaborators. That's in addition to the collaborators. So the collaborators do not delimit the number of winners from stage one that could go forward.
Okay. And related to this, for those applicants who would like to apply to stage one, should they cater their curriculum that they would like to submit to the collaborators' agenda for the competition?
No, not necessarily. I mean, the point is to do what you think is compelling. You know, so it's stage two, and you're wanting to develop or design a badge or set of badges, a badging system. You could do one of at least 3 things. You could intent of a particular kind. I've been talking about, or let me take a different example. So Motorola's app developer for Android phones, right? So you might really like that and say, I will develop a badging system that recognizes the learning taking place in app development in relation to Motorola. So that would be one kind of badge developing system that that you could think of developing, and that would be pertinent directly to that set of collaborator content. Second, you might see from the stage 1 winners of learning content, now not collaborator winners, but actual applicants. And obviously I can't name any because none have yet been chosen. But you might say, oh, I like that teacher content in relation to science learning that winning proposal has submitted, and I want to do, I have an effective way of recognizing learning and learning pathways for that kind of science learning that has made it through stage 1, so I'm going to develop a badging system for them. So that would be the second kind of badge system development. And then the third might be, I think I have a really terrific generic badging system for some imagined kind of learning, some fantasy learning that I'm willing to spell out right in my stage 2 proposal. I'll spend a little bit of time and here's the badge system that I could apply to that. Now, if it really is a terrific badge, set of badges, a badging system that the judges see would be an effective way of also applying to other kinds of learning from the collaborator content or from other learning content that has passed through stage 1, they might say, okay, we're going to partner this terrific badge design that has been submitted to stage 2 with some of the learning content from stage 1 and pair them in the final matchup meeting in stage 3. So all three are effective ways of developing badging designs in stage 2.
Okay. We have a couple of other questions that are about the intended partnerships, collaborations, and then it looks like we've got quite a few for the application and stage questions. So we'll wrap up the questions about this more general, and then we'll move on. And these questions are mainly about for-profit status. Are for-profits encouraged to apply, or small nonprofits? And similar to that, could badges be based on paid content, such as online courses, etc.?
Yes to all of it with some qualification. So nonprofits, of course, are encouraged to apply like anybody else. I mean, universities nonprofit universities are nonprofits like other nonprofits, for example. So nonprofits, absolutely. For-profits are encouraged to apply, and indeed even in relation to, say, for-profit content. But there are restrictions on the kind of profit that could be made were you to be a winner all the way through and get awarded with an award from this competition. So what gets developed with awarded funding would be subject to open source and non-profit making venture for that component of what it is that you'd be developing. Obviously, we wouldn't, couldn't, and wouldn't want to restrict your profit making from other aspects of even badge-related work that you were doing. But if we're, if we're providing this aspect, would be subjected to the constraints that we're placing on you, and that is spelled out in the legal language on the website. You can go and look very closely at that.
Okay, and the next question is for stage 1 content. Does it need to be completely unique content, or can it be an extension of a current initiative?
Oh, it can absolutely be an extension of a current initiative. It doesn't have to be unique content. You just need to show why it's compelling, whether it's unique or ongoing. Why badges would be an effective way of thinking about the recognition and rewarding of the learning and learning pathways that are taking place.
Okay, and I probably should have let people know I've jumped into the application stage questions. The next one is, would it be possible to have multiple sources for badge awarding feeding into the same application?
I'm not sure exactly what's meant by that. Could you try and spell it out a bit?
I'm going to have
Sorry, this is Erin. I think so. I can weigh in on one interpretation of that question while you go back and find out exactly what they meant. We are working with people. There are a couple collaborators, and I know that there's some people interested in applying to stage 1 as well that are thinking about kind of representing various partners. And so there might be several organizations or programs under them that they're going to be involved in the badge issuing process, and they would sort of act as this umbrella badge system, if you will, across programs, and that is definitely an option. So if that's what the question meant, the answer is yes, that's an option. The only sort of caveat there is that, again, we want these to be kind of compelling badge systems and sort of kind of comprehensible or understandable badge systems moving into stage 2. So if this is something that has too many moving parts or lots of different organizations that almost break down into multiple badge systems, that's going to be kind of hard to then develop badge systems around in stage 2. So the key is there can be lots of different programs involved, but there should be some kind of some type of either organization or oversight that's pulling it all together and is kind of overseeing that entire badge system.
Thank you, Erin, and I'll have people check and make sure that was the correct interpretation. But regardless, that was an excellent answer. I think that is probably pretty close to what was being asked. So, could you propose a curriculum or content design for one of the collaborators or for some hypothetical organization that Mozilla sees fit?
So, if I understand correctly, yes. So the question seems to be asking around stage 2, and as David had mentioned before, one of the options is to come in at stage 2 and propose a badge system for the content, either the collaborator content or the approved content from the applicants in stage 1. And so you absolutely, that's a possibility and highly encouraged to look at that content and propose badge systems. The other option in stage 2 is to come in with kind of hypothetical badge systems and really just focus on the design and the kind of systems that that you're developing. And the question asked about curriculum, and so there is a kind of a lot of the proposals in stage 1 will already have existing curriculum. So it's going to be about, we're going to be describing learning experiences, curriculum, types of materials and interactions that are already happening. And so, but some of those might need a little additional work on the curriculum side as well to sort of make it fit badges. So there is a question, I guess there's some flexibility, or there's going to be some difference in the proposals in stage 2 about how much overlap there is with the actual curriculum. There will certainly need to be some thought around the kind of assessment and criteria that align with the various badges that are proposed, but I think there will be some flexibility. But so I think my answer is yes to all of the above.
Okay, thank you. And I'm getting into territory here where both David and Erin, you may have something to say about these questions. So put them out there, and I might have to have you indicate to me which of you would like to answer this question in particular. Do stage 1 submissions include the criteria for how a badge would be awarded, and then what someone does to go to the next badge, a higher badge, in a progression of earning badges?
I think it would be helpful to at least sketch that out, without being definitive or absolutely authoritative about it. But I think if one was able to indicate, how the badges are relevant to the learning that takes place in that kind of way, that would help the judges to understand what it is that the proposal is driving at.
There is no expectation in the stage 1 proposal or stage 1 submissions that you know what the badges are. So you can certainly, if you already have a badge system that you want to propose in stage 1 and you have some ideas about how you want to expand that, that is a possibility. But in many cases, the stage 1 content proposals will be about just content, right? And that you want badge systems to be developed for. So there is no expectation that you have figured out what those badges are going to be. But as David said, any kind of thought you have around how your current curriculum or experiences could align with badges. So if you see hierarchies, or if you see different kinds of types of badges or specific types of skills that really align with that content, that's going to be obviously very, very helpful moving into stage 2 when designers and developers are going to be looking at this content and proposing badge systems. So, as well as David said, the judges kind of understanding the value of this potential badge system. So it's not expected that you have that figured out. Again, the stage 1 is about the opportunity and the content, but any kind of thought you have or insight you can go into there is only going to kind of help you get to kind of more relevant badge systems sort of at the end, if that's where you end up.
Yeah, let me just add that you know, the emphasis on learning content for which badging would be relevant, or for which badging would be a good form of assessment. That latter emphasis obviously then opens it up to being able to say in an application or a proposal what makes badging appropriate or an effective way of identifying the learning that's taking place in relation to that content. And so if you can spell that out, I think it becomes more compelling in the proposal.
Excellent. Thank you both. Based on the number of different variations of this question, I think this might be a good one for people to know. Can the same organization or institution submit proposals in both Stage 1 and Stage 2?
Absolutely.
So it looks like some of the different ways that people are phrasing this, if you have an entwined proposal for both Stage and Stage 2, can they propose both at Stage 1 or separate the ideas into two discrete proposals?
Either way, I mean, it would be effective if in one Stage 1 proposal one indicated that one has in mind a design and what that design would look like. You wouldn't want to spend a lot of time doing that because obviously that would be more germane to Stage 2, but it would be good to spell it out a bit. And then if your proposal in Stage 1 were effective and you were chosen as a winner in Stage 1, you know, you'd be encouraged then at Stage 2 to submit the design side of it in more detail, and you know you've got a double shot in a sense of going forward to Stage 3. You know, it's still open whether, I mean, even if you submitted at Stage 1 and at Stage 2, that if you won at Stage 1 and didn't win at Stage 2, a design for your Stage 1 content. If you didn't win at Stage 1 and won at Stage 2, it's because your design was recognized as being an effective design, and you'd be paired with a different kind of content in Stage 1. It could be that, you know, the judges at both stages recognize that you have a coherent system that is compelling, and you'd be forwarded to the final as a kind of standalone proposal to make a pitch of your own for both aspects.
Okay, and I think that the way you've answered these questions probably covers some of the different ways people are asking, but if that's not the case, for those of you who have just submitted them, if you could just let us know in the chat box, and I can circle back to this. It seems to me, David, that you covered it. So I'm going to move into the budgets and awards area. If people still need to ask questions about any of the early ones, just jump in there and we'll circle back to those. The next question in the budgets and awards section, is there any support or funding available for anything in the grants beyond badges? So for example, content development.
In principle, yes. You know, as long as it was shown to be relevant for the development of the overall badging ecosystem or system that was being developed. You know, at Stage 3, when one was asked for one's budget, if one made it that far, one could put in there that when, you know, having spelled out the learning content that one has proposed, you'd like further to develop that learning content in a way that would make the badging system even more effective for the kind of learning that was taking place. So in principle, yes.
Okay, and this is somewhat related and it's very specific, but it might help people.
Let me sorry, Cheryl, just before you go on. Obviously, you wouldn't be awarded only for developing learning content in the end. That's not the point of this.
Okay, and that may pertain to this next part of the question. If the content is already available, but the methodology and delivery system and teacher certification is proprietary, can the award be used only to develop the badge system that would be used to measure success of the content over time?
Ooh, interesting. Erin, what do you think?
Sorry, I was muted. Can you repeat it one more time, Cheryl? No, I'm here. So I was on mute.
The content is readily available. However, the methodology, the delivery system, and teacher certification is proprietary. So could the award be used only to develop the badge system that would be used to measure success of the content over time?
Yes, I think so. I mean, my take on it would be again, stage 2 designs are going to range, and that's why the budget amounts are going to range, or the grant amounts. You know, some people are just going to need the badge systems being designed. Some are going to need kind of more technical systems to support the badge system. So if I understand the badge system or the question correctly, if that exists, whether or not it's proprietary or not, if the systems already exist, then stage 2 could just be around kind of what the badge system is, what the criteria is, what that looks like, and not the actual system itself. There is a requirement, however, that the winning systems do plug into the Mozilla Open Badge infrastructure, so there would have to be some development there to actually make that interoperable with the final system.
Okay, great. A question about during what stage is a budget submitted and what are allowable budget expenses?
Yeah, the budget would be developed in stage 3 fairly comprehensively. You know, obviously designer time, you know, and the time of the work of others that is being required to develop the budget, the badges system. You know, would depend on the kind of work that is being proposed. I mean, is there learning content development that is being proposed? So if so, then some time could be budgeted for that. Some equipment, if it was shown to be absolutely necessary and required for the development of the system, might be available. Obviously, some travel that would allow the team getting together, and so on and so forth. But I would suspect that most, the larger items on the budget would relate to buying or buying out the time of those engaged in the work.
Okay, great. This is an interesting one. Can some of the award monies be used to convert the program content into digital format and then have it lead to assessments in order to award the badge?
In principle, I would say yes.
Yep, I would agree. I think that, again, like I said, there'll be a range of the types of designs that are happening. So if there is content that is currently face-to-face, part of the actual badge system design is the digital technology to support that interaction. So, yes.
Okay, and this other question: will institutional support be defined as matching funds, and is cost sharing expected or required?
It's possible. Yeah, there's not a hefty sort of requirement around cost share.
Okay, I'm trying to relocate. Okay, here's a good question. I'll see if I can paraphrase this a little bit. There's some concern about the amount of time it would take to react to winning and becoming a stage 2 winner. If you are a stage 3 team and you have, if you've won, there's about a month to finalize proposal. So this question is really about what will be involved in, what kind of effort will be involved in trying to prepare for the event in February. Do you have any idea of the amount of time that would be needed to move the project forward? And this is, it sounds like this is somebody who's working in education and teaching and knows that the schedules are going to be peaking around that time.
There are, in a sense, 2 phases to stage 3. The first phase is that kind of month-long period in February, where folks are being introduced to each other from the stage 1 and stage 2, or stage 2 and collaborator engagement, and they put into effective collaborating mode with each other. It is then up to them to determine how much time they need or want to spend, both virtually or face-to-face with each other. That's, you know, we can't dictate that. It would depend on all kinds of contingencies. And then the second phase of stage 3 is, of course, the face-to-face meeting at the end of February, the first day of which would be an intensive working day, you know, for the team working with each other. It might indeed be the first time that they physically meet each other face to face. And so, you know, it's hard in the abstract to say 10 hours a week, 30 hours a week, whatever it is. At this point, one can only say whatever it takes
Yeah.
in order to get from February 1 to February 28.
Yeah, and we've, just as a kind of point of reference, we've asked the collaborators, who again are the people that we've sort of worked a little bit more closely with before the sort of leading up to this point, we've asked them to commit a half of a full-time employee for that period. So really that just means a point of contact that is focused on this project and is available for conference calls and planning meetings. And again, we'll be sharing that content, of course. And so that there is some kind of dedicated representation for that time to do some kind of pre-work and pre-planning moving into the finals meeting.
So think of it as the final month of rehearsing for a play.
Yeah.
And the dress rehearsal is on the 28th of February.
Right.
Good way to put it. Okay, then we've got a question about how many awards do you expect to award?
Yeah, in the abstract, somewhere in the region of 20. It's hard to know. It depends on, of course, what people are asking in relation to the budget and how many great and effective proposals we get on both both stages. And but if passed, plus minus roughly 20 awards.
Okay, and this next question is how expensive is it to incorporate a badge system into an existing website as in a budget item? Would that be a stage 1 cost or stage 2? And this person is thinking about how to network among multiple websites and organizations.
It's very hard to answer that in the abstract. I mean, Erin, do you have any?
Yeah, so we've done a few exercises where we've kind of worked through some potential budgets, but there's so many moving pieces because it's everything from how many badges, if you're just doing 1 badge versus 10 badges versus 100 badges. Again, if there's any kind of curriculum design that needs to happen, if there's any kind of technology system that needs to happen. So it's an incredibly wide range, which is why the grants are so wide as well. And so it's hard to kind of, it's hard to just sort of throw out a number generally. In terms of is this a stage 1 or stage 2 cost, there shouldn't be any costs associated with stage 1. Now, stage 1 is, other than time of just pulling together the proposal, but stage 1 is just about the content that already exists or the opportunity. Stage 2 is a design proposal around that, so there's probably going to be some considerations of budget, but that's really when the sort of meat of what will play into the budget is defined. But really it's at stage 3 and on where that budget is really formalized, because again, at that point you'll have all of the answers around how many badges, what needs to be built to support the system, who's going to be involved, and how much of their time, and that kind of thing.
Okay, and this is a question that seems to be a good one for David to follow up with. Will the budget be shared between the stage 1 and stage 2 groups comprising stage 3 teams?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And will all stage 1 winners be assured of finding a suitable stage 2 winner to carry the project into stage 3?
We will do everything we can to make that work, yes.
Okay. And then the last question I've got specifically for budgets and awards, what kind of funding is available for stage 1 and stage 2?
Well, the budgets we've identified are between $10,000 and $200,000 per project. So again, it's hard to know in the abstract without knowing, as Erin put it, what the moving parts are from each of the stages to know exactly, what goes to whom. There's no fixed presumption that stage 2, if it's a $200,000 budget, that stage 2 will get $150,000 and stage 1 will get $50,000. That's not how it works. The system would need, or the proposal at stage 3 would need to show the coherence of the proposal and what the budget items are effectively in relation to each component of the proposal, whether it's learning content or badging development, and then to identify in an effective and compelling budget, what budget lines go to what parts of each aspect of the proposal. Not simply to think of a proposal, if one makes it all the way into stage 3, as there's a stage 1 side and there's a stage 2 side. At that point, it really has to merge as a complete, comprehensive, seamless engagement with each other.
Yep. And just to reiterate, yes, so there will be content, there will be stage 1 applicants that are approved or that sort of win, if you will, stage 1. And so to just be clear, there actually are no grants aligned with that judging.
That's correct.
Same with the end of stage 2. Those actual designers, there's no grants aligned with that judging. The grants are aligned with the combined stage 1 and 2 sort of badge system proposals. So the ones that once we combine stage 1 and stage 2, so both content and design, during stage 3, they will go on and compete, and the winners of that, so that's going to be like complete teams that are proposing complete badge systems. Those are where the grants are aligned, and the team can decide how that's going to be broken up. Obviously, that's going to play into the budget, but they can kind of decide how that grant is going to be distributed across various team members. But it is that final team that is composed of both the content providers and the designers, developers.
Okay. Yeah, that was actually one of the questions that just came in, how to manage the award budget. So thanks for addressing that. I think we're getting close to the end of our hour, so I wanted to just move quickly. There are a couple questions in the judging and assessment of applications category. If you could address the criteria in stage 2.
I think the most effective way of addressing that is to point you to the website at stage 1 and 2, and again, as I said earlier on, to encourage strongly that you go and look both at the stage 1 and stage 2 pages, and at the list of items that the call strongly encourages proposals to go and address, and those will be the sets of conditions and considerations that judges will take into account very seriously. So if you look at each of those pages, and indeed even on the badge about badges page, there's some language about the understanding of badges, and if you pay attention to all of that and address those items, then I think you stand a better chance.
Okay, great. I've got a couple questions too for the research competition. If somebody's applying as part of a team for the badges competition, does that preclude them from applying as part of a team for the research competition? And a similar question, can people submit to both?
People can submit to both, and it does not preclude them if they apply to one from applying to the other.
Okay, and so it's conceivable that somebody could win, they could be on a team that wins the badge competition as well. They could also be somebody who's going to win on the research competition?
In principle, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Somebody's also asking about
that would be really good.
Yeah, it would. That'd be awesome if we had research
say,
yeah.
Go for it.
That's a double win.
Yeah.
And will the judges be announced before the submission deadlines? Do we have a timeline?
Probably not. They will be. They will certainly be identified after the judging takes place. I can't make any commitment to their being identified prior to that.
Okay. We are.
In the past, we've waited until the competition is done to identify the judges.
Okay, well, I realize we are right on time. We've got lots of questions that we didn't get to. So what I'm going to do is, same thing that we did with the Badges 101, we'll go through and answer the questions. It's going to take a little time because we have to go through these and answer them and post them online. If you have questions that come to you, you can email dml@hri.uci.edu, and I will be posting and answer these questions on dmlcompetition.net on the blog, as well as on the Badges forum questions and themes. So thank you both. That was and excellent questions, everybody. Those were really good. Yeah. And David and Aaron, I know Carla's there too. And thank you everybody for participating. And we're looking forward to seeing everyone
around. Right? We will be doing another webinar along these lines. So
exactly. We'll be doing this again on October 25th. And what we could do is start with the questions that came in today and just quickly go through those and make sure that everybody's got their questions answered. So yes, October 25th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard and noon Pacific Standard, we'll be doing a live interactive webinar exactly like this. So you feel free to join us then too.
Yeah, and if you don't play, you can't win.
No badges for you.
Only
thank you, everybody.
Only, thank you. Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, ciao.